Hi. I'm going to go over introducing and concluding right now. However, I am more going to go over outlining than I am introducing and concluding because this PowerPoint has evolved over time. So I'm going to show you mostly what an outline looks like compared to a transcript. A transcript is something you read directly from. It is a script, and you're not going to be doing that. However, some people still write scripts for themselves. I do not encourage it. I don't want you to. Sometimes maybe it helps to write it all down at first, like almost an essay format, but that's not what you're going to be turning in. You're going to be turning in an outline. So I'm going to show you what the two look like next to each other. Okay. But first, introducing, concluding, some important concepts. We're actually going to, transitions. Okay, we're going to skip that for now. As far as introducing and concluding go, and as far as clarity within your speech, it's really important if you go back to the first lecture, and we talked about encoding and decoding. And encoding and decoding have to do with how well are the people you're speaking to or communicating with in some way, how well are they understanding your meaning that you wanted to send? Not necessarily in like the words you're saying, but or the messages you're sending, but how much meaning that you're sending is being interpreted correctly. And it's really important to think about other people's perspectives when we're public speaking. And one of the most important things that we need to think about is laying the groundwork in our speeches and also in essays when we write essays. And the introductions really come into play there because you're laying the first stones down. It's going to give everybody the information they need moving forward to understand the rest of the speech. All right. So the purpose of an introduction is first to get people's attention. This is really important with a speech. I say it's more important with a speech than an essay. Why is that? Didn't mean to leave you on the edge of your seat there. So why is that? Because with an essay, you can go back and read. If you lose track, like if somebody doesn't, if your attention isn't caught right away or somebody else's attention is not caught right away when they're reading your essay, and they kind of like, when you're reading and like you're reading, but nothing's actually entering your brain, and they kind of just like start daydreaming or something, they can go back and be like, I can reread that. With a speech, you really can't do that. With a speech, with the exception of recorded speeches, which we can do that, but in most speeches that are live, we can't do that. We can't go back and be like, hey, actually, could you start over? Because like I was not paying as much attention as I thought I needed, or that I needed to, because you didn't catch my attention immediately. So, sorry, I thought I saw a spider for a second. I was like, is that a spider or a shadow? It's a shadow. But anyway, so you want to get people's attention. This is really important. There are several different ways you can do this. You also want to provide your audience with relevant information that they will need to know in order to follow your speech, like I just said. As well as that, you want to connect with your audience. You want to make sure that you understand who your audience is, and that way you're able to connect with them, especially if this is a persuasive speech. You want your audience to know that you have their best interests at heart, that that you're credible, that you want them to like you. If they don't like you, they're not going to listen to you. And then you also want to establish credibility. Like, why are you credible on this topic? Why should anybody be listening to you? And then you want to inform this is really important. I'm a really big stickler for this. You want to inform your audience of your purpose and what they can expect from your main points. So you want to give them that preview thesis. You say, basically, this is my specific purpose. This is the topic I'm going to be going over, and it's specifically what I'm going to be going over. And I'm going to go over it by going over this, this, and this. And you should only have about 3 main points. Okay. Ways you can start your introduction, which is your hook. That's where you want to grab people's attention. Different ways you can do this is asking a rhetorical question. A rhetorical question means that you don't require an answer. It's really a statement in the form of a question. So you might say, I'm trying to think of what you might say in an actual speech instead of in real life, but you might ask, how many of you are tired of, of the mass shootings at schools? And if, especially if you're speaking to an audience that is going to be on the side of like gun control or that are parents, that's a rhetorical question. You're basically telling them like, we're all tired of this. We're all sick of this, seeing this in the news. And so So that's a rhetorical question. An actual question is one that you might want answered, maybe by a show of hands, really quick. It's not going to be a long one. It's not going to be one where people are going to be yelling out answers. That's not the best way to start off a speech. A relevant quote, and relevant is the key term here. It needs to be relevant to what you're going to be talking about. Same with a statistic. But these need to be interesting statistics, interesting quotes. An anecdote is also a really great way to start off a speech, if it suits it. An anecdote is a small, concise story. And it's just like maybe giving somebody some background. Like if you're going to give a speech on like gun control or on school shootings, you might start with a really small anecdote about a shooting that happened, or about the way a shooting impacted you or something like that. And that would catch people's attention. All right. So I'm going to give you some examples here. I wrote a whole informative speech for you. Hold on. I don't want to block out his creepy face. I wrote a whole speech, a whole informative speech just for my students so I could give them this example. By the way, I'm going to give you 2 different hooks. You would not use 2 hooks. You would only use one. And I'm going to say for a 5 to 7 minute speech or a 4 to 6 minute speech, both of these hooks are way too long. Okay. So don't like follow my example and be like, I want it to be this long. These are way too long. They're going to take up way too much time because they're not even the whole introduction. They're just the hook. So I did a whole speech. I wrote a whole speech on sleep paralysis, awareness during sleep paralysis. So this is what I would say maybe the first one would go. And this would also serve as a visual aid if you're doing that. I would show this painting, and so I might say, you may be familiar with this image. This 1781 painting by Henry Fuseli is famous for more than its artistic excellence. It is the most well-known artistic depiction of a condition called awareness during sleep paralysis. If you've ever heard of accounts of alien abduction or incubus encounters, as depicted in this painting, this is what is behind those perceived experiences. All right, so that's one hook. That's an example of using a hook kind of with a visual aid. Here's an alternative hook, and this is an anecdote. Okay. This one could also serve as maybe most of your introduction. You could actually use this as background information as well because it's telling you what it feels like and what sleep paralysis is. So this one might be okay to use as a whole thing. And then you would, kind of maybe wrap this up and give the people, your audience, that preview thesis. So it happened for the first time, like all dramatic. It happened for the first time when I was 19. That might be a little too dramatic for a speech. I was in bed asleep and I woke up. My spine felt like electric currents were traveling through it. I was terrified. I heard voices, and then my bed began to rise on one side. I thought I was going to slide off, but I didn't. I tried to scream, but nothing came out. I tried to move, but I couldn't. I moved my eyes to the window, and in the dark reflection were demonic faces. With all the strength I could muster, I finally broke free, moving my body, and everything except my normal room disappeared. After this, it happened on a regular basis for several years, and it took me a long time to find out what it was. Something called awareness during sleep paralysis. And yes, this is a true story. This did happen. And I don't really get it anymore, but I used to get it almost every single night. All right. So now that we've gone over that, what if you didn't use that whole thing that I just read you as like the whole introduction and hook combined? Then you would have to go into that body of your intro. And so what is the audience? Think about what the audience needs to know about your topic so that they can understand your speech. Also, you don't want to go over stuff that's going to be gone over in your speech. So you don't want to like repeat yourself over and over. You also want to keep some of this. So a lot of things I see from students is like their first main point will be like, what is sleep paralysis? Something like that. And I'm like, that goes in your introduction. Either that or it's so complicated that it's going to be split up into 3 main points. So think about this, like, what do they need to know? Think about how much does an audience need to know? Every once in a while I will see a speech or hear a speech, see and hear, where it's like, they just jump right into main point 1 and there's no background information and I am immediately lost. I don't know what they're talking about. So think about what does my audience need to know and what can be cut. Sometimes we like want to go overboard with topics that we're really passionate about or interested in. And do they need to hear that much? Maybe not. It's okay to cut. This is also called in writing called kill your darlings, where you have to cut pieces of your writing that you really love, because it's not necessary or it drags down the rest of your work. So think about how this info is going to connect to the hook, how it's going to connect to the rest of the speech, make sure it's all in the same vein. Let's see, how does this topic relate to your audience? And then why does it matter to you? How does it, so you might want to connect this with your audience. And this can be done in like the most mundane ways. Like I had a student do a whole speech on the difference between parsley and cilantro. And he connected it to the audience in the intro. He was like talking about how some people don't like cilantro and how, you know, we're always like getting these two things mixed up and what they taste, you know, I don't know. It was like a whole thing, but he connected it to things that we could all relate to. So it worked. All right. So here's the background of what I would say after maybe I've gone over that, that hook or whatever. I might go over this. Now, just ahead of time, let me let you know right now that some of these slides do have in-text citations in, I believe, MLA format, and other slides don't. You would always put, this is not an outline format, but in an outline, you would always put in-text citations in whatever format you're doing, whether it's MLA or APA. You want to pick one, not both, and then do throughout your entire outline, you're going to have those citations. So background, it is possible that some of you have experienced sleep paralysis firsthand. The Sharpless Barber, the Sharpless Barber of the U.S., I think I messed up there. I'm actually going to skip this part. I'm going to let you read that on your own. I'm going to get right down to the bottom, actually, because this is the part that's in bold is what I really want to stick to you guys, because I did not proofread that. My bad. I want to create awareness of what sleep paralysis is, sharing the experience and neural activity behind ADSP by informing you what physical symptoms are felt, what psychological symptoms manifest, and the neural explanation behind this disturbing event. So right there you have your specific purpose statement. This will be gone over in a different video. It gives you like, this is what I'm going to be talking about. This is my purpose of this speech is this first line. That's in bold. And then I go over what each main point is going to go over. And each main point, the first one's going to be physical symptoms. The second one's going to be psychological symptoms. And then the third one is going to be the neural explanation of this stuff. All right, so what would that look like in outline format? If I can get us to work. There you go. That's it. So notice how I just showed you several slides. Take two of those slides, one of the hooks, and then it would be the first hook that I have here. And then this whole thing. See how much less there is on this slide? You don't want just like 2 words on each thing, but you do want to break it up so it's fewer. Also, the note cards that you use for your speech should look like this. It should look similar to this anyway, where it shouldn't be a whole script for you reading. Because even if you have it memorized, which you were also not supposed to do, but even if you did, if you have it written down like this, you will not be able to look up. So you want to go over this just like and look kind of how you have your Roman numeral 1 at the top. That means that this is the first thing you talk about, okay? Your first main point will have a Roman numeral 2. And then you have like your kind of subpoints here. You've got a subpoint of sleep paralysis is what's believed behind these events. Sleep paralysis experience, and you got some statistics in there. And then you have another subpoint that's, you know, something else. And then this one, this next subpoint is built from this, right? So it's like actually a subpoint. If you were going to elaborate a lot more on this part right here, you would have a subpoint for that as well. So these are kind of like related but separate ideas. And then at the bottom here, you have the thesis statement. All right. Here is kind of like a color-coded look at this, right? So your thesis statement, your preview thesis. So your general purpose, you're going to inform. That's right there in red. Purple, what's your specific purpose? There you go. That's in purple. And then in blue, what are your main points? So this is what your preview thesis, this is what your whole thesis statement should look like, including your preview thesis. So you've got specific purpose statement, thesis, or your, sorry, and preview, and then together you have that preview thesis. All right, so there we go. We're going the other way now. So I'm showing you the outline first. Outline and main point 1. I'm going to talk about physical sensations. So paralysis, spine chills, chest compression. So I'm going to go over 2 subpoints here. The first one is 2 things happen at once, paralysis and spine chills or electric shocks. And go over that more. You wouldn't just keep writing, right? None of these subpoints in an outline should have like more than a sentence, maybe two at max, but mostly just a sentence. And then, so build on that. So instead of being like two things happen at once, and then you start going into each of them, no, go down and then tab over another one. And then you've got a little I here. Sometimes it's a little A, sometimes a little I. It's however your computer does it. But once you put a Roman numeral there and then you know, enter to the next line and tab over, it will automatically put these letters and numbers in here. So your brain's dream active state manifests electric shocks and pressure. And then go over some more. And then the third sensation is chest pressure, right? So spine chills and paralysis, electric shocks, that's all one thing. Chest pressure is a whole separate thing that happens. It's also physical. So that gets its own subpoint with its own sub-subpoints. All right. And then that's what I would actually say. See how much more that is? You're going to make sure you don't leave anything out. I'm not leaving anything important out of this when I write this. I'm just elaborating more in this because this is what I'm actually saying. This would be like an actual transcript, right? Again, you're not turning in a transcript. You're turning in an outline. So, so then, yeah, so you can read this one on your own. And then again, too, this one is a little more sparse, like it says visual, but because I have hallucinations and then different types of hallucinations. So this is definitely a subpoint. Hallucinations, fear is intense and irrational, like a strong sense of fear is one subpoint. Hallucinations are another. These are both psychological manifestations. Visual, auditory, and sensory. These are three different types of hallucinations that you have. And so they each get their own subpoint. Okay, and then they each get their own subpoint. There's got to be a better way of saying this stuff. There probably is, actually. All right, and then again, there you go. That's what I would say. All right, and then main point 3, this last one. And this one has the MLA and text citations in here. So you've got, in text citations, just the last name and a page number or a paragraph number. So you've got paragraph numbers here, page number here. Paragraph numbers they should have a comma there. Oh, wait, no. Yeah, they should have a comma there. But it doesn't. See, this is right, a comma here. But with the page number and MLA, there's no comma. I don't write the rules. I prefer APA format. APA format would be last name, comma, year. Unless it's a direct quote, and then it would have the page number. And it would say P or PP dot if you have multiple pages. All right, I don't mean to confuse you. I gave you a link to look at Purdue OWL so you could see all this stuff. So you definitely utilize that. But there you go. This is the last one. Spine chills are heart-related. Breathing, the amygdala response for fear. And then again, there you go. That's what I would say. There's a lot of stuff going on here that is covered here. It's just not elaborated upon. Okay. All right. And then you conclude. So you want to tie everything together. I say restate the thesis or restate your main points, but do so in a way that's like paraphrasing them and not directly saying the exact same thing. Like today I went over this, I went over this, and I went over this. It's like, well, yeah, we just heard that in your thesis. Restate it in a way that ties it all together. Like it's very scary. Like when you have these physical manifestations and these psychological effects, and then, you know, but it's good to learn about them at the end, you know, to learn what this actually is. You want to provide closure here. You want to pull it all together and provide closure. Further the idea if you can. This is sometimes not easy to do. I was able to do it with this one though. I'll show you how. Show implications, reinforce your purpose. What was the reason you told this? You might want to bring up, like, maybe you have had this and them helping you understand what it is, and maybe you haven't. And if you ever do, now you know what it is, and it doesn't scare you. I thought at 19 I was being possessed by a demon. I'm not lying. I was like, what just happened to me? Doing research and understanding what it really was really helped me with my mental health, because I thought I was going crazy. And then if it's a persuasive speech, we'll go over that later in the semester, but if it's persuasive speech, you would then have a call to action or something. All right, and there you go, call to action right there. And then here's the conclusion outline. So, like I said, I was able to kind of further this. So what happens if you do get this? What happens, like, how do you get out of it? If you haven't had sleep paralysis, knocking yourself out of it so you can move again is like, it takes so much energy, it's basically painful. It's so hard to do. And so like what happens, and there's also some stuff about lucid dreaming. It's like how to pull yourself out of an episode. I'm furthering the idea. I'm telling you, this is what I went over today. This is my purpose, whatever. And then here's some extra information on it. Also, including how to get out of it. Move a small body part. Usually you can move a toe or a finger. Keep doing that until that sensation and that ability to move other things spreads through your body, and then you'll be able to jerk yourself out. And that's what I would say. And that's it. That's this very short lecture, but it's very important because if you need, I'm going to give you outlining examples, obviously. But if you need to see an outline example, I think this is probably a better version than the actual papers I'm going to give you, because it's showing you the difference between the two. Like if you're like, here's an example, but like, what would I say? Like how much more would I, how much less would I put in my outline than my actual speech? This is showing you a good example of it. All right, so this is good to look at. However, when you do your outline, you are going to be doing it in either APA or MLA format on a document. It's not going to be on a PowerPoint. That has happened one time where somebody gave me a PowerPoint and I was like, that's on me. That's on me. Like, so, all right, that's it. Let me know if you have any questions. Have a good day. Bye.